I spent $35,000 on a boat, but there's a catch. One of the last of her kind, the Viking Lady, is a 1970 wooden Grand Banks. A mahogany plank to beauty known as a woody. By some, probably because of her construction, or maybe because of how they feel when they see one. Sam has been a charter boat captain in Juneau, Alaska for years, and I'm lucky enough to spend most of my summers with her. But we've always dreamed of owning a liveaboard and exploring the furthest reaches of the Inside Passage, seeing places that very few people have ever been to. Before that dream, I spent a year as a pilot flying a Cessna 207 to small communities in Southeast Alaska. I saw some jaw-dropping scenery, but something was missing. So I bought a 1976 Islander 36 for $8,000, thinking it'd be the perfect project to live on, restore, and eventually feel the spray of the ocean in my face. But there was a problem. After putting a ton of time into rebuilding the engine, replacing rotten bulkheads, and cleaning years of grime off the rigging, I realized this wasn't the right boat for what I had in mind. Alaska's Inside Passage can be rainy and cold, and while the Islander had some sweet lines, it didn't have a pilot house. Between the slow motoring and lack of wind, it made for a pretty miserable, cold, wet ride. Fast forward, after moving from Alaska to Idaho, then Wyoming, Texas, and now Hawaii, I still dreamed of that Alaskan voyage. Each place had its perks. In Idaho, I learned the joys of a jet boat, cruising up the shallow reaches of the Coeur d'Alene River, getting stuck on gravel bars, and even organizing a neighborhood rescue mission when our boat sank in the Snake River Canyon. Wyoming, that was the era of rebuilding my tri-pacer and feeling the coldest cold I had ever known, but Thermopolis always had a way of warming us up. Houston gave us the chance to buy a Pearson Vanguard 32, and Sam and I spent days exploring Galveston Bay. The boat was a beauty. We made her our own, fixed her up, and learned a lot. But when the right opportunity came, we sold her quickly and moved to Hawaii. But enough of the backstory. This video is about how we found our Grand Banks 36. It all happened last December when we were coming back from Juneau. We missed our connecting flight back to Hawaii, and that's when I saw it. A 1970 Grand Banks 36 listed for just $39,500. Now Caden, you said you'd never buy a wooden boat, right? I told myself that too, as I stood there thinking how cool this one was. You'd hardly even know she was made of wood from a distance. Sam and I talked logistics. Buying a boat 2,000 miles away, and while we're already stretched thin between her Volkswagen, my air coupe, and our new obsession with paragliding, we figured this could be the perfect summer home in Juneau, so we made an offer. The offer was accepted with the condition of a survey. Now my knowledge of wooden boats was limited, so I reached out to several surveyors before finding Tom. Tom grew up in Norway, building wooden boats, and now owning a boat of his own in the Puget Sound. He's not just an exceptional character, but also an expert surveyor. If you want to watch the video about our survey, I'll leave the link to the video in the description. Back to the wood. I get it. Fiberglass boats are the usual go-to. They're twice the price, and Alaska has a ton of old wooden boats. Some of them pushing 100 years old, and they're still going strong, catching fish. Now I am a very debt-adverse person. If I'm buying a boat, plane, or any other toy, it's going to be with cash, and I don't want to pay interest. Especially not 10%. That $3,500 in interest alone for the first year in a fiberglass boat could be well put towards maintenance on a wooden boat. I know a wood boat can cost more to maintain, but with proper care, it can be comparable. The Viking Lady isn't a restoration project though, so I'll just need to do some annual maintenance to keep her dry and rot free. Insurance was no issue. Only $109.64 a year from State Farm for basic liability. I figured if I sink it, That's an expensive lesson, but probably my fault. But honestly, it's wild they'll sell you $50,000 in full coverage on a 55-year-old wooden boat with no experience or survey. Sam and I have a few projects planned before we head to Alaska, so we're hauling the boat out of the water the last week in March. With the Viking Lady on the hard, we'll do a proper bottom job and service the Seacocks. April will probably be rainy and cold, but I'm planning to take the month off work. We'll move at our own pace, anticipating a 10-day trip up north. Having owned 5 boats, I've got a pretty good idea of what tools I'll need. I've already spent $300 at Harbor Freight to stock up. Everything from electrical to carpentry and a solid toolbox. If you got any recommendations or off-the-wall hacks for the trip, leave them in the comments. Oh, and just so you know, when I had to fix a sunk jet boat, I did it with nothing more than spray foam, flex tape, and a 5-gallon bucket for Sam to bail out the water, so we're resourceful. Boats break, it's just part of the deal. But adversity is life's greatest teacher, and I'm a lifetime student. This next chapter, I have no idea where we'll end up or what will break along the way. But boats get old, and so do people. Let's make the most of life and experience the inside passage to Alaska.